and Rancid calls us and says, hey, we want you to open up for us and the Offspring in Jacksonville. That was the first show that I sang lead vocals and played bass as a 4-piece. And it was the Edge in Jacksonville, and there was 4,000 kids there.
Welcome, everyone, to This Was The Scene, the podcast that takes a look back at the late 90s, early 2000 punk scene. I am your host, Mike Doyle. Before we start, yesterday was my birthday, so happy birthday to me. Blount were a skate punk band from Pensacola, Florida. They had splits with Shocking Truth, Strung Out, and put out their LP on Fearless Records in '96. That's literally the only thing out there that I could find about these guys. So basically, this interview will be the most in-depth thing that's going to exist on the internet. So thank you for listening, and you're welcome. Thank you, Josh Marsh, for your intro to Jack, who's fucking awesome. Josh, you're awesome in general. And Jack, I had just met him when we started interviewing, and he's great. It's cool because when I get to interview people, afterwards, we will message each other randomly sometimes about, I don't know, posts or just random shit online. And it's cool. You build this kind of friendship with someone who you've never met in person, but because you've talked to them for such a long time, it builds this bond. And he's a super cool guy. And luckily I got him on the Skype, and this is what we chat about. Replacing the first singer, playing a show with Rancid on their first tour, hanging with Lagwagon, opening for Rancid, signing to Fearless, working with Jim Cherry, one decision changing the whole band's history, the photo on Discogs, Brian Fallon, and a ton more. I'm taking next Friday off, so you have time to catch up on the other 175 episodes, which you may have missed. A lot of people don't know this, but podcasts usually only keep the current 100, so there's a ton of episodes that just get deleted off of their platform. But I have them all on thiswasthescene.com, so if you hear me mentioning that I did an interview, if you just go to thiswasthescene.com, scroll down a little bit, there's a search bar. If you put that band's name in, they're going to come up as the episode. Now, it sucks because you have to listen to the player on a web page, which I don't know how to fix, but every episode's on there. So just go to thiswasthescene.com. You can click on episodes in the navigation. It'll show you every single episode I've ever done. Or you could just do a search. You could even do a search for something like ska or punk or California, and these bands will come up, or Creep Records, and all the Creep Records bands will come up, and interviews with Eric and things like that. So yeah, so go there to check it out. And other than that, feel free to subscribe, leave a review, and share this with anyone who loves some punk rock nostalgia. With that said, let's get started. I've always said Blount. Is it Blount or
that's
Blount?
It.
Okay. Just to clear it up.
It's Blount. It's the name of a street here in Pensacola where I live again, where our band was from, and all of us at some point ended up living on Blount Street, other than Pensacola Bob, who was our guitar player. And it just seemed like our original singer had an apartment in these two quadplexes. I ended up having an apartment there. Craig, our lead guitarist, ultimately ended up, I think he lived with me for a little bit. Yeah, it was just one of those places that everybody knew in Pensacola.
What, Pensacola where?
Pensacola, Florida.
Oh, I thought you were central.
I am, yeah. Once you go through Tallahassee, after you get out of Tallahassee, you're in central, heading west.
Oh, I thought because you said Pensacola, you're central in Pensacola. I was like, is there a Pensacola Montana, or that's?
I think there's one in Oklahoma for some reason. I think there's one there. I'm not sure.
Okay, but you guys are Florida boys.
We were Florida originally, Florida based, and I think after we got signed to Fearless, we ended up moving out to Los Angeles.
Okay, so let's lead up to that. 'Cause there's not that much information online about you guys. I have Discogs open. I've got a Fearless Wikipedia up, but what did you do in the band?
I played bass. Originally, we started as playing out as a 5-piece, and we had a singer at the time, this guy, Shane Renault. He was a kind of alpha tough guy, whatever. And I just played bass, and I would do some occasional background vocals. And we did one tour after we put out a 7-inch with 2 songs. We did a split with Shocking Truth. in that lineup. And we went and we toured out to California and toured back. And we played a show in San Diego. We had a show at this place, I think it was some kind of kitchen or something. It wasn't at Soma. And our singer decided he didn't want to play. We didn't end up playing the club because the club owner was such an asshole to us because we got there super early. One of the guys from John Cougar concentration camp showed up early to meet us. And he's like, well, just screw it. We'll just go play the show at my house in my garage in La Jolla. And all the kids will come there because I'll just get in touch with everybody. And that's what we did. But then our singer Shane decided he didn't want to play the show. He was above it. And so he decided he was going to go sit on the van and watch the drive-in movie theater down in the valley from La Jolla there. And so Pensacola Bob, P-Bob for short, which he's still known by, pretty famous guy, strangely enough, decided, okay, well, we're going to play the show and you're going to sing the songs. And I was like, really? Like, I knew the songs, but I'd never been in that position fronting. And we played as a 4-piece and it went off, I guess, well enough for him to just decide, well, when we get back home, we're going to kick Shane out and you're going to sing and play bass. We're going to write all new songs. I'm like, wow. You get thrust into positions in the situations in life. And that was certainly one that I was not expecting. And I don't think I was ready for it, but I did my best to rise to the occasion, I think.
So I'm going to rewind it and get us back up to this part, but we've covered some ground here. I'll kind of fill in the gaps, but did you don't like kind of advance, like don't expand on it, but were you the lead singer from that point on?
Yeah. After we got back from that first tour, we kicked Shane out and then I was the lead singer and still the bass player. Ended up in that kind of, Fat Mike, no effects position without trying.
Just got thrown in it.
Yeah.
So let's go back. So like you guys grew up in Pennsylvania, or I'm sorry, you guys grew up in Florida. So I want to take it to like how you got involved in the scene and then lead it into the band forming and all that other stuff in Fearless Records. How did you get involved in the scene? I can never like position this statement right. And every time I listen to this, I always fuck it up. Did you get in the scene because you were in a band or did you get in a band because you were already involved in the scene?
I think those things kind of go, that's the duality of it all, really. If you're a musician, you kind of seek out, when I was 14, 15, I got turned on to Misfits, and I had a bunch of Misfits tapes, and my parents are really very Christian. You look at Glenn Danzig and any of those guys and Eerie Von and Chuck Biscuits or any of those guys, like, that's not church-worthy stuff right there. I met Craig going to high school, who ended up being our guitarist. Originally, we had this guy, Keith Hall. He and Pensacola Bob and this guy named Jonathan Parker and a guy named Chad were jamming in Keith's garage. Chad ended up being he wouldn't really show up. And he was, I guess, playing bass for them at the time. And so they found me and they were like, hey, we need a bass player. I'm like, well, I play guitar. Because kind of one of those situations where it's like, all right, I'll just sell my little Squire Bullet and go get a P bass, to play through just to kind of jam with people. And I was going to shows in the scene. At that time, we had the Night Owl, which was behind like a big hardware store out off Fairfield. And we had Sluggo's downtown and we had the Handlebar downtown, and those were 18 and up clubs, and we'd try to sneak in those. And
you guys didn't have any like Legion halls or churches or fire halls that you play in?
We had Legion halls, but at that time we had 3 different great venues that all the major touring acts were coming through. And so the Legion halls didn't really end up happening until a later date when a few of those kind of started to falter and they weren't around anymore.
What year was this when this is all happening?
That was 91. That was 91.
Getting into music and all that, did you do it because you just wanted to do something local, or did you want to were you like, this is my ticket to get out of Florida?
It was just something that was kind of bred into me, honestly. My mom had me play piano lessons from 6 to 9, and they had gotten me an acoustic guitar because I really apparently even as like a really young toddler, really enjoyed some guy who came to our church and was always playing acoustic guitar for like worship sessions or whatever. So they had gotten me a harmony acoustic guitar, and I had that, and I was always strumming that. And I played violin from middle school to almost 11th grade, 10th, 11th grade. So I had a musical background growing up. You know, my mom would play piano in the church. She was also kind of like the music director for church and that kind of thing. So you get that hymnal kind of background of singing, playing piano and violin. You get sight reading and playing with, you know, other people. So all those things were really kind of already in my DNA. At that point, it was just finding music that really appealed to me. And that happened when I started going to shows at the Night Owl. You know, we would see Soundgarden, you know, when they came through at the beginning of the Bad Motorfinger tour, Screaming Trees and Mudhoney, and Green Day came through on their Bookmobile tour, you know, and it was just like, that was the place to hang out, because it was a bottle club after hours, but it was all ages when there was national acts coming through. Regardless of how old you were, you could get in, you know. And once I got a license to drive, and I had my 1976 Dodge Power Wagon to haul people around in, you know, I was kind of like the bus to the show.
What was like the scene around you like? Because I've talked to a bunch of people from Florida, and they said it was a shit ton of skinheads in the early '90s. Did you guys have that up at Pensacola?
You know, if any of that was around, it was before I kind of entered all that. There were goofballs that were claiming to be sharp skins, you know, skinheads against racism, and that, you know, some, you know, people that would like glibly run oxbloods and, you know, green bomber jackets and shave their head. There's a couple of people, and I was just like, whatever, dude. As long as you're not racist around me, I don't care. I think a lot of that transpired more in like from Jacksonville south. You know, when you get into the Panhandle, the Emerald Coast of Pensacola, it's a little more mellow from my experience.
Yeah, like what's the crowd? It seems like maybe just I mean Florida's gigantic, so it's and I think there's more of a denser population, I guess, more like central or like southern, like that whole area.
Yeah,
But you guys, it's a lot more spread out, so it seems like were the shows like is the vibe there and the bands, did they have a bit more of a chill kind of attitude, like not attitude, like approach?
absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, you know, you got the crossover where, you know, the metalheads come in and they're, you know, slinging their arms around like they're a sprinkler or whatever and trying to knock people out. But that was very, very, very rare. The scene that I grew up in really felt like, you know, the Rancid song, you know, when I fall back down, you're going to pick me back up again. That's kind of the mantra that really was what the scene was when I grew up from, you know, in the early 90s.
So when you guys got together as a band, like and started playing shows, how quickly did you start to get a bit of like recognition locally?
Well, we started playing shows as the five piece when I was not the singer. We got some recognition because there wasn't a lot of local bands at that time. We played as a five piece at Sluggo's with Rancid when they came through on their first tour for their first album. It was cool because we met all those cats. Lars was teaching us how, you know, being from Oakland, how to take a penny and grind down the side of it and get a dime's worth of parking out of the parking meter, you know. Tim, who was still kind of known as Lint then, you know, from the earlier days. Dude, that guy's just like kind of that stoic, kind of cool guy, still is. And we would play with whoever. So we kind of had kind of home court advantage, being that there were so few bands to choose from. Right at that point when we first started, they could show up and you know, be all about business and trying to perform. And there was one show, I think it was like a Halloween show or something, we all dressed in drag, and that was hilarious. Because Bob had blue dreads, kind of like Eric Melvin back then, and he was in like some big moo or whatever, and I was in like one of my sister's like mini skirts and high heels or something. It was just like, it was a gas force. We were just like it's just we're just trying to have fun, and so we garnered enough attention from the people who kind of held the keys to the city as far as the scene. We were amiable guys, and we're just trying to have fun, not trying to push anything on anybody. And we made friends early in the scene. You know, all of us had friends in the scene, and Shane and Bob were 10 years older than I was, so they already knew the scene, and they kind of helped bring me into that as far as like, oh yeah, this is our guy. Even, because I was playing shows in bars before I was 21.
Like in other, like with, I'm guessing, other bands. You just get up and just start rocking the violin at a bar.
I mean, Lagwagon on their first tour when they came through on Duh, rest in peace, Derek, he overdosed in Pensacola, and those guys were stuck here for like a week.
Holy shit. Wait, he did that like around the time where you were involved in the scene?
Yeah, yeah,
Whoa.
yeah. It was really sad. It was really sad because he's such a talented young man, and we all looked up to him, and really they did a really great job of kind of keeping it on the low profile. Meeting Chris and Joey and Jesse, original bass player of Lagwagon back then. Those guys were so hilarious. They stayed at my friend Jesse Will's place, and those guys would play Shakes the Clown back to back to back to back, and we just smoke weed and watch Shakes the Clown, the movie. It was hilarious.
I've never seen this movie.
You never seen Shakes the Clown?
No.
That's where like half of all of the sound drops from like Binky. You ever been kicked in the head by a bull?
Oh,
That's
yeah,
where that
yeah,
comes from.
Oh.
Yeah, it comes from Shakes the Clown. It's
Actually, you guys have, and I know I'm jumping forward for a second, but there's a sound clip you have in Trauma. What's that from?
that is me doing my best Jerry Seinfeld, if I recall correctly. Yeah.
That does not sound like that.
Yeah. Is that the Who Are These People?
Yeah,
Yeah, that was like me doing my best Jerry Seinfeld, because he's always got that like question that he kind of repeats over and over again. And so we just kind of I emulated that, like referring to ourselves, like, who the fuck are these guys? In just a Seinfeld way.
Okay. I was wondering because you had said that whatever movie you just said, what Shakes the Clown.
Shakes the Clown.
Yeah, you'd referenced that, so I was wondering, that would have been so random because I was going to ask you about that, and I was like, this is a good time in case that's it, but nope.
Yeah.
You as Jerry Seinfeld. So did you, like, because you saw and got to hang out with these bands coming through, did that open up your eyes to think we could go on the road as well?
Like, I think I just lived in the moment and didn't even think about touring as much early on. I was just like, oh my gosh, wow, I'm literally on stage playing music with a bunch of guys, and people are reacting to it well enough. I mean, anytime you play a show in a place, even if the people and they've never heard you, they're just going to stand there and stare at you like deer in headlights. That's just how it goes, because they don't know how to react. They don't know what tempos your songs are going to be at. They don't know what you're going to say. They don't know if you're going to say something so ungodly, to make them want to hate you. I mean, you asked about if there was a lot of like skinheads or whatever, and obviously those people are always looking out for those things to eschew them from their scene. If the scene is a tolerant, kind of like accepting scene, which luckily that's kind of what our scene was here. And I think that's why a lot of bands really like to come through here, because they know that even though Pensacola wasn't a big city, it's always been known for music, whether it been the black jazz circuit, black blues, R&B circuit, the alternative circuit. All the Seattle bands came through here, all the Fat Records, all the Epitaph Records bands, any of those, all the Sub Pop stuff came through here.
I think, like, I remember there was a really small, because I was in a band, we toured with Lawrence Arms, and they're like, we're going, I think they booked the show, and I think it was Pensacola. I don't know if it was Tallahassee, but I think it was Pensacola, because I think it was like right as we got into Florida. And it was this super small, this is 2000, actually this is 2000, and this is like this super small venue where the stage was right next to the front door, and it maybe could fit 150 people, if that.
I'm going to guess that that was Section 8 with Colton Wright and Chris. Oh, crap. What is his name? He's still around here somewhere. But Chris and this guy Colton opened a small club in that time frame that your band Lane Meyer was doing things. Because you guys ended up being, I don't know, Blount kind of went off the rails in '97, mostly because of me, and being married and having a kid and that kind of thing.
We'll get there.
And, yeah, but I think that was Section 8 was where you guys played, because I think it was either that or Sluggos would be one of the two places, because Night Owl was already gone by then, and Handlebar at that time hadn't had their fire yet. I think that happened in 2001. If you said 2000.
Yeah, it was. I just remember it was. What I had heard was it was like, and I guess I'm just comparing what the scene was like when you're talking about the three clubs in the early 90s. And then when we got there, I mean, we were two bands from out of town, but from what I had heard, it was kind of a hard area to get kids to come out at that point in time.
Man, I'll tell you what, the thing is in Pensacola, if you've got music and somebody can at least just promote it well enough, kids will come out because they need something, anything to do as far as that kind of an outlet in this town. Now back then we had Pensacola Junior College, we have UWF, which is a 4-year college, now has a football team that's doing really well. And the Pensacola Junior College turned into a 4-year state college. So what we always had was like an influx of new young people. And I think that's always helped in this area as far as new artists, whether they're music or otherwise. There's always a new influx of people coming into this town that kind of revitalizes, gives new colors to the palette of this place.
How long were you banned before you got on Fearless? Because I'm looking it up, and it looks like you guys were the second band they ever signed.
I believe the first band they had was Glue Gun, who are friends of ours, and we ended up touring with them. We toured out our second tour out to California after I was the singer and playing bass. And
okay. Actually, wait, let's hold on a second there then. Because I didn't realize this happened before you got on Fearless. So talk about that. Like you guys, because it was that first tour where you guys had played San Diego and your singer didn't want to sing.
Yeah. So we did that tour. We came back. We had already lost our original drummer, Keith Hall. Before that, he went in the Marines. He was in love with a girl, went in the Marines. And so we lost him, and we brought in this guy that we met, John Kuhn. Great guy. Love him still to this day. I still love all my guys to this day. But, when you're young, like, life's going in so many different directions for each of us. And, like, holding on to a band like that, man, it is challenging. You know this. So we picked up John Kuhn, and he was our drummer for that first tour. And he had the thing was he had a band. So once you got a band, man, you got wheels. You're ready to go. It's like getting your driver's license as a 16-year-old. He built the loft in the back of the van, put the mattress on. We did the first tour. We came back, kicked the singer out. And
how was that real? Actually, sorry, just how was that to kick him out? Like, I just want to hear just a little bit of that, of like what that was like. Because this isn't San Diego, and you guys are so far from home at this point.
Well, we didn't kick him out before the tour was done. And we didn't have that many shows going back. It was basically Terry Johnson, who ran Sluggos, booked all of our tours for us. Between California and where we are in Florida is about 32 hours drive straight. And if you broke it up into 6-hour increments, all you need is like 4 shows to make it home, right? So you hit either Arizona or New Mexico. And then we always played El Paso. We would play San Antonio. We would play Houston, Louisiana, New Orleans coming back through, because they're basically our neighbors, just 2.5 hours west of us here. And so it was an easy way to get home. As far as like kicking Shane out of the band, I left that to Pensacola Bob, because they're both the same age. They were longtime friends, and it was just like, I just, because Bob was really the one that made that decision. That wasn't my doing. It wasn't like I was chomping at the bit to take over, because it was something that was way out of my wheelhouse. As far as like even the thought of it was way out of my wheelhouse. It was kind of a surprise to me that even after that show, I'm like, we're going to kick this guy out of the band. And now, but the thing is like his songs weren't really, we were still a fledgling band back then. And that guy was like so full of like angst that I didn't really identify, other than, like it was kind of like that Reagan Youth kind of idea, with what he was, this kind of stuff he was writing. He was writing songs like called Serbian Slayer and stuff like that, and like it's a world away, being 10 years younger than him, like I'm not looking at all this crap that's going on in the world that I haven't even ever been part of to even know how to even talk about. When we got back, it was just like, okay, we need to revamp not only new songs, but we're going to revamp our sound a little bit. So we got to work, and I started writing songs, and luckily my dad has an engineering firm here in the north side of the county, and did even back then. And so we had a small room that we could rehearse in, and we just got to work. We would spend 4 to 5 nights every night out there for 4 hours, and just kept just woodshedding away, trying to get some songs. And those guys really kind of gave me the time to develop writing lyrics. That's a hard thing. I still have problems with it to this day. And maybe it's because I'm too hard on myself. Maybe it's because I'm still learning. I think both. Still trying to grow and say something that's worth hearing.
Well, what did you find like worked for you though when you started? Because some singers or songwriters who do the lyrics, they have kind of a thing they always shoot for. So some people they just want a really good melody, but they'll sing gibberish about nothing, or they want to do melody and they really want the lyrics to mean something, or they're not even thinking about melody, they just want to be very poetic. Like, I don't know, what was your style?
Well, being poetic is, wow. Still working on that. Every now and then you feel like you get a little bit lucky where you're able to, as Blake Schwarzenbach from Jawbreaker would say, you can turn a phrase until it reads a million ways, but it makes no sense, but it feels good as it is sad, right? And that's kind of where I tried to just go with it, and not necessarily make things sad, but just all I really felt I could do was speak on like life as a 20-year-old when I was writing those songs. Like I was working at a Hooters as a line cook. I came home smelling like fried chicken and hot sauce every night to my soon-to-be wife and our baby on the way. And life was just hard. I was paying $400 a month rent. And at that time, that was a lot of money. I think minimum wage was probably 5.25 at that time, and so that's why I think one of my first songs with Blount was a song called Minimum Wage, talking about that. And the melodic was always part of where I would land, because I didn't know any other way. I didn't have that. I didn't have that, kind of Walter Schreifels where you can go. I didn't understand dissonance at that time. You know what I'm saying? I didn't understand that kind of, that drone, that where you could sing almost 2/3 of a song in one note and then just go big on,
Yeah.
that kind of a thing. That post-punk thing hadn't even happened at that point. So it wasn't something that I was accustomed to. I at that point I was listening to probably like Sam I Am Sore, the early stuff like Ribs and Liberal Animation by NoFX, and early Jawbreaker.
Well, you're singing obviously in Trauma, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so when I'm listening to it, I heard a hint of. It's actually funny because I was going to ask you about Bigwig because I heard some Tom Petty. I heard some Bigwig in your songs, but you guys were before Bigwig, so I'm
Yeah,
guessing that Bigwig kind of like maybe got a hint of their sound from you guys.
I think everything's derivative, honestly, and definitely not to toot our own horn, but we brought Bigwig to Bob Becker of Fearless, and we're like, you guys, you got to sign these guys because we played with them at, I think it was CC's Pizza, or what was that other place? There was another place in the Pennsylvania area. We ended up playing with them, and I was like, these guys are bitching. And they played way, way faster than us too, and I was just like, but Tom always had that kind of that he always had that hardcore kind of thing that I wasn't really introduced to because being so close to New York, you know, you had a little bit of that, and they grew on that because of the what is it, unfunny melodies or gosh,
Unmarried
unmarried
melodies.
melodies, yeah, with the crazy bugs on the front. That was their first Fearless album.
And that came out a year after your guys' first release, so that's why it was interesting to think of who maybe
It
influenced
it
who.
it did, but I think we met them on tour before or right after we got signed because we went back out to California as a four piece, and we Pensacola Bob he lived in California for a good part of his earlier formidable years, and so he had a lot of friends out there, all the guys from Shocking Truth, the guys from the original Living End, Mark Reich, all the Dog Patch Wino guys, which Eric Smelly from No Effects was a part of early on when he was still not sober. Because of Pensacola Bob, we had all these ties to California, and he was a big influence in kind of what I was listening to and kind of helping shape the sounds to. And Bob was always an RKL fan, and he turned me on to RKL, and Bob would play RKL so much, and he would come with these crazy off-time chunkety riffs and these little, you know, lead lines down into the next, you know, power chord or whatever. And so a lot of that was he and I putting together those songs early on when we decided to be a four piece. And he really kind of shepherded me through that. And like I said, they gave me the space and time to try to develop being a songwriter, like, because that wasn't my normal mode. And the interesting thing to me was, you know, we ended up playing with Face to Face when they first came through. I think on, it wasn't the Don't Turn Away album, it was that EP that they had called Over It, and they just picked up Chad as a four piece, and we opened up for them, and we certainly gave them a run for their money.
What do you mean?
Like the crowd was going just as crazy for us as they were for them. And even at the end of it, you know, Trevor was like, wow, you guys really blew the doors off this place tonight, and really took that as a compliment, like, we're going somewhere
Yeah.
with this, you know. I mean, if I back it up a little bit, because we had met Rancid as a five piece, a year later, we were a four piece. Rancid's management called us and said, hey, we want you guys to open up for us over in Jacksonville for us and Offspring. And that first Ignition album from the Offspring was like one of those albums that was another album that really just like blew my mind. It was just so fierce and so just like, you know, just punching you in the face with every track. And so there was a lot of stuff that I kind of emulated from that. So when we were the four piece and we were still working on stuff, and I didn't even know if we were ready, and Rancid calls us and says, hey, we want you to open up for us and the Offspring in Jacksonville. That was the first show that I sang lead vocals and played bass as a four piece. And it was the Edge in Jacksonville, and there was 4,000 kids there.
Oh my God.
So we got there and we said,
Crazy.
what's up to Rancid and everything. And Brett, their drummer, he's in the back puking. Our drummer, John Kuhn, he's in the back puking. But this is before the show even, this is like 30 minutes before we go on. And
Jesus.
and I am nervous as shit. I'm nervous as shit because I'm like, we have these songs down, but there's probably 10 times as many people out there as we've ever played to in one show. And I don't even know how this is going to go because this is like a big theater. Like the stage is huge. It's probably 40 feet across. And I've never played on anything like that in my life and been that far away from my bandmates. Usually we're like maybe 4 feet from each other. You can see them right out of the corner of your eye. And man, we went out there. Nobody in Jacksonville knew us. We went out there. We hit the first ring out on minimum wage, and John hits that punk beat, that super fast punk beat. Da, 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 da. And get to the yeah, and do the jump, and boom, the freaking whole place just exploded. And I was like, holy crap, just keep going because you already got it. You got them. And it wasn't like that normal. If they don't know you, they'll just stand there and look at you. That's what blew my mind, was that they didn't care. They were ready to just rock. The audience was ready to just let it out. And it was so awesome. I think by the time we finished our second song, John, our drummer, threw up on the drum throne over just to the side of the drum riser. And we just went into the third song. I think we played probably 6 or 8 songs. And we left it wanting more. And then the guys from Rancid came out. And that was the Smash tour for Offspring.
Oh my God.
That's when they blew up, when that album came out. Man, I was so grateful for that because it gave me the confidence that even though I'm doing something that I had never planned for or tried for, I was given the chance for it. I rose to the occasion to the best of my current abilities, and we just smashed it. We smashed it. And it was such a good feeling.
That's fucking nuts. So you guys I love that. So you guys you start off, I mean, you've been a band, you've toured, and this show is before you're on Fearless?
Yeah, that was my first show singing. So we hadn't even made it out to California again yet to even meet Bob Becker yet. And we didn't even know that was coming. I didn't even know that was a thing.
So how does that become a thing then? So, I mean, yeah, so because I'm going to eventually kind of jump back to this show, but like let's go past this. And now you guys are like, holy fuck, you're definitely got a boost in being like, all right, I'm gonna do this singing thing. And then how does that, between here and meeting Bob, like what leads up to you guys meeting him?
So we go back to Pensacola after that show, and we're just high on life. We're just like, wow, we exceeded our own expectations by multitudes, exponentially. But we get back to work because I don't think at that time we had more than like 7 or 8 songs that we felt fully comfortable about. When we got that call, it's like we weren't really ready to release upon the general public what we were doing at that time. But we went back to Pensacola. We kept working. I know we probably played with a couple more bands that came through town, be it at Sluggo's, be it at Handlebar. I think the Night Owl was slowly about to unwind about that time. I feel like before we went on that tour, shit, P-Bob should be here. He has a lot of stuff better in his mind as far as timeline than I do. But we ended up having Rancid call us, I think 6 months later, and saying, hey, we want you to come now open up with us at the Edge in Orlando for them and the Lunatics. And it was just like, so what we did do, though, is we started playing around. Like we would hit Gainesville or Tallahassee at the Cow House or Gainesville at the Hardback. go up to Atlanta and we go play in New Orleans. We did some regional stuff to really kind of cut our teeth on this new sound, the new lineup, and all that kind of stuff. And then it was like, I think the year after we did that, it was like, all right, we're going back on tour. We're gonna go to California and back again, but we're gonna make our way back through the East Coast after California. And so we did the I-10 drive from Pensacola back out to California. We had homies in California that we could stay with. So we ended up going and when we got to California, we stayed in San Pedro with our buddy Mark from Shocking Truth at his house in San Pedro. And we had this show in the South Bay, and I'm trying to remember where it was. I feel it was Gardena. There was a good amount of people there. We played, and it's like we got done, and then all of a sudden, P-Bob's coming to me, and he's like, hey, there's this guy Bob Becker here, and he wants to talk to us. I'm like, okay. You know, like, what's his deal? And like, he has a label. I'm like, oh, okay. And he basically told us on the spot, he's like, I want to sign you guys. I want to sign you guys. I have a small label. And we were like, okay, well, that sounds cool. You know, it's like anything. When you don't know what you're doing, you just try to go with the flow.
What was it about, like, what was it about his offer that was enticing? Was it just the fact that it was a label and you guys wanted to be on a label, or did he say something that matched your persona?
It was just the interest. So that would have been 95.
Let's see. You guys put out, yeah, you put out Trauma in 96, but your Discog says you did, okay, you did the 7-inch. Yeah, so you did a split with Strung Out. Was that before Trauma or after?
That was kind of midway through. I think we pulled. We did a 4-song 7-inch by ourselves with
Shocking Truth?
Mike. No, that was a different. The Shocking Truth split was when we still had Shane as our singer.
Oh, that's right.
And then we put out our own 4-song 7-inch with. There's an old punk rock band from here called Maggot Sandwich, and Mike put out our first 7-inch. There was a split with Shocking Truth. And then he also helped us put out our own 4-song 7-inch. Those 4 songs ended up on the album, but they were a different recording. And honestly, I feel like those were a better performance somehow than the album ended up being. So that's what we toured on. We toured that first tour to California and back and all the way around on the 4-song 7-inch that we had. We did that in a day. We did those 4 songs in a day. We were, it was like, Bob was like, we're going to do a 4-song 7-inch. We need to pick the 4 best songs that we have ready with your stuff, our new sound, and we're going to put it out. I think we did 500 or 1,000 of them. They're almost impossible to find now.
Is that the one that's like black and white? It's like a.
It's the sumo guy with what's his name from Street Fighter.
Oh, yeah, something Honda.
Honda, yeah.
Whatever.
It's got Honda on there, and then there's little caricatures, tattoos of all 4 of our faces on his chest. Our friend Ramel, who is from here in Pensacola, longtime friend, animator, he did that for us. He also ended up doing the Blount Trauma album cover for us in full color.
Did he create the logo? Like the way you guys spell Blount? Because I remember that was that stood out when I saw that back, like on comps and things when I was younger.
Yeah, the spiral and the O and everything.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, so we started originally when we were the 5-piece, we had it with a fingerprint like the Dinty Moore beef stew can. And that's where it kind of evolved to, was that spiral, that chaos spiral. I feel like Ramel did it. I want to say that he did. And my memory is just not serving me well right now on that.
It's okay.
Gosh, we're talking 25 years ago.
Oh, dude. Yeah, but we're talking more than that. This is like 94, 95, so this is going way the fuck back.
Exactly.
So, but when you guys get on Fearless, did Bob present like kind of a quick timeline to do things where he was like, all right, let's go, and you felt that confident that, oh, cool, like we're getting shit done?
Yes, there was that, and then we did a little bit of it. I feel like we did a little bit of it on tour. We started the recording, and then Craig and myself and my buddy Justin Constant got in my Monte Carlo after tour and drove back out to California to, oh gosh, what's that guy's name? Jim something Studios. But the thing was Jim Cherry from Strung Out. Bob Becker enlisted Jim Cherry, the original bass player for Strung Out, to produce our record. I think we ended up playing a show with those guys before we started that album. So Jim was doing that, and then they were working on their record. And then we came back out. Craig and I came back out to do the vocals and the guitar overdubs, and then we drove right back to Florida. It was funny because we spent all day in the studio doing vocals and redoing bass parts, and I think I ended up passing out on the couch in the studio, and then waking up and Craig and Jim Cherry looking at me going, "It's done." I'm like, "Okay, I don't even know what's going on here." It was a whirlwind. It really was. It was a whirlwind, and if I blinked too many times, I probably would have missed even more of it. It was just everything happened so fast. That was those years of, where all those other labels, like if you've obviously probably read Dan Ozzi's book Sellout.
Yeah.
I read that recently. Great book. That guy's great writer.
Good audiobook too.
And yeah, and there's a lot of that going on. Nobody ever, screamed sellout at us because there was no really buy-in. Like, it was all kind of like we didn't make any money. It was just we saw that light at the end of the tunnel of a dream that always just felt like a dream and didn't really feel tangible. And so we were always just kind of floating with our hand out to it, even though it felt still like a dream all the time.
It seems like you guys had some really good opportunities through the beginning of the career, and then so did that stay? I don't want to end it. I don't want to end this yet. But I don't want to jump too far ahead and stay there. But
we did. We had a lot of great opportunities, and a lot of that I would attribute to a man named Gus Brandt, who is known worldwide as the tour manager for the Foo Fighters.
Oh wow, how's that connection happen?
Gus Brandt early on had a booking agency here in Pensacola. He lived here for a long time. He was good friends with Bob and our original singer in the scene. And I think once he saw us, once we became a four-piece and he saw us, he noticed that we had kind of changed tones and gone in a more, in a cleaner, more just marketable, I guess, fashion. All the Fat Records, Epitaph, basically we had first choice of who was coming through town that we wanted to play with. So we ended up opening for Face to Face, No Effects, 10 Foot Pole, all the Fat bands that came through. One weekend we opened for L7 on a Friday night, and then I took Jen, D, and Danita to the beach at 2 a.m. in my dad's station wagon, and he's calling me on the cell phone saying, "You got to get your butt home." I'm like, "Pop, I'm taking these ladies to the beach. It's 3 a.m. And then that same Sunday, we ended up opening for the Dead Milkmen. We got so many opportunities handed to us because we were hungry. The thing about Blount was we weren't great, but we were well rehearsed, and we were on time, and we were persistent, which made us better than good.
You know what's funny about that? It's like I heard about you guys because of the Fearless comps and Bigwig, and basically anywhere Bigwig went, that opened up the Jersey scene where I grew up in to all Fearless, the whole Fearless catalog. Like Fearless became the Fat Records to us. Like,
yeah,
and I remember when I heard your guys' songs, or I saw that, like I always felt like there's certain bands out there that are kind of goofballs, I guess. you know, and for some reason I slapped that, and I never saw you guys play live, I don't believe, and for some reason I think just by seeing the logo or something on the songs, like I wouldn't have imagined the internal structure that you had to match how I saw you guys from an outside perspective.
Hmm.
But again, I don't remember seeing you live, so I didn't get to see the tightness, and I never got met you in person. But I think it was just because visually, the logo or hearing the songs, like you just make up your own perception about shit. So I think that's what
Certainly,
mine
certainly.
was. Yeah. Not saying like I thought you guys were like losers or anything like that, but it's like, it's
No, no. I don't think we were losers at all. The thing was, is like once we got a little bit of traction and the new lineup happened, it was like the work was on, and we were not shy of the work. We put in the work, certainly. We knew I feel like it was an unspoken thing, but we always knew our limitations as musicians. But that's what I feel draws everybody to punk rock scene, is that it shows anyone that they can get up there and do it as long as you put in the work and try hard. You can get up there and do it whether you're a great musician or not. That the great musicianship thing comes with a lifetime of experience and trying and putting in the work. We certainly got a lot of opportunities that we never backed down from, and we always rose to the occasion for.
How did the Gus thing help you out again?
He had a booking agency down here called Purple Crayon Limited, and so all the bands, everybody knew him. Like I don't know how that transpired, but basically he was the contact. Like, hey, if you're going through the Pensacola area, this is the guy to contact to book a show at whatever club in the area. And Ramel, who did basically, I would probably bet 100% of our artwork, was kind of he had two right-hand men, Ramel and Mike. And so those were the two guys when Gus was out of town, because he was, I guess at the point, tour managing some smaller bands at that time. They would handle the shows, and they're great guys.
I'm going to ask this anyway, but I just saw on Wikipedia the time when this thing came out. So I was going to ask you why you guys weren't on the serial killer comp, because that was probably one of the most popular comps that Fearless did, but they also did Punk Bites, which you are on, which came out earlier.
When did the serial killer comp come out?
It says 99. I thought that was 99 seems like it's a little bit. I thought it was like 97, 98.
Well, I left the band for good in the middle of 97.
Wait, hold on.
And that was,
wait. Before we get there, then, because I don't want to. Yeah, because there's obviously time in between that.
Yeah, that would have been too late for that.
Okay, so you guys put out Trauma, then like leading up to your departure, like what fill in the gaps? Like what starts happening, what doesn't happen?
Okay, so 96, early 96 is when, and I think that was probably what Bob was going for, because usually like labels like to put out albums in the first quarter of the year, right? And so because he enlisted Jim Cherry to produce our record, he also made some deal with Jim, and I don't know that it sat well with the rest of the band initially, but they were kind of on the hook to take us on tour with them to promote the record right as Suburban Teenage Wasteland Blues was about to come out.
Oh, wow.
So we did a pre-tour with Strung Out in Europe for 2 months at the forefront of Suburban Teenage Wasteland Blues coming out. And I think it kind of pissed off Fat Mike a little bit, because I think he wanted them to take out Diesel Boy, because he had just started Honest Don's records. And so what ended up happening was, I think Becker was trying to get Strung Out to take us on tour with them into Canada as well, but I think Mike put his foot down because he was really trying to get Diesel Boy off the ground. You know, they had their hit, My Pants Are Falling Down. So the Canadian part of that didn't end up happening with them. We ended up doing a Canadian tour after that. But we did 2 months with Strung Out. Man, I tell you what, like, touring with those guys in a bus was probably the most amazing time that I had in that whole era of my life. It just gave me a whole different idea of what that whole life is.
What did you learn? Like, what did you see?
Well,
The things you could
what?
tell me.
Yeah, no. I mean, those guys were above board all the way. Jason, Rob, Jake, Jordan, Jim. Man, that band had a lot of stuff going on that wasn't privy to right away. Obviously, looking back on it, I listened to your podcast the other day that you did with Jim's wife.
Wendy, yeah.
Yeah, Wendy. And man, we really lost a great songwriter with Jim. He was an ornery fucker, but god damn it, I loved him. Like he was a straightforward guy, like he didn't sugarcoat shit for you, when we were recording, it was like, yeah, but that's not good enough, and I'm like, that's what I need. Tell me if it's not good enough. Like, I looked up to the guy because Another Day in Paradise was just a blistering album that I could only aspire to, hopefully even think about that kind of level of songwriting that they pulled off in Another Day in Paradise, because Jason's lyrics and singing were just like a machine gun, and the guitars were just so raucous. I was like, man, those guys are gnarly. And like, we get to go play with those guys. It was like a dream come true. It's like that was the thing. They say don't ever meet your heroes. No, meet your heroes, because I tell you why. They're probably just like you. In essence, they've just gotten a couple more miles ahead of you. That's all it is. You're just following people that are just like you, and you're calling them your heroes.
Well, I feel like Jim, from what I've heard I've heard a bunch of interviews about him, like bands who recorded with him, like even like Jake from Strung Out. I talked to him and stuff, and like it seemed that everyone who talks about Jim just has nothing but good, like great things to say. But it sounds like he was just like you said, ornery. Like he was just like, this is exactly what I'm going to tell you. I'm not going to fucking sugarcoat this shit. And I think some people, if they're not ready for that, would think he's a dick, but other people who understand it would be like, "Oh, this guy kicks ass."
Oh, he totally kicks ass, and that's what I needed. I know that's what I needed. Like, I needed direction because I was out of my wheelhouse. Like I said, it was something totally new to me, and I was doing my damnedest to kind of fill that seat, if you will. And I think he recognized that, and I don't know that he was like particularly hard on me, but I think he was the right amount of upfront with me that I feel like it helped make me better. I wasn't shy for as far as like criticism, be it constructive or just destructive, like blow me out of the water, sink my battleship on this one thing if it's not working. Like I needed guidance. And when you're in a band with guys and you're kind of, you fall into that new kind of position, I think they typically, I would say probably Craig was my other besides Jim Cherry. He's like, no, that's not good enough, and I needed that. And I know it wasn't coming from a place of malice or anything like that. And so it's just like, I'm just listening, you try to take criticism the way that it's meant from people like that, because nobody's trying to tear you down. I didn't feel like anybody was trying to tear me down. I felt like people were trying to make me stronger in that role. And so I appreciated it, and I didn't really push back. I tried to listen and just try to find the way that I could be better at that. I really look back fondly on that with those people, because they gave me such a breadth of space to explore it, but still steer me in the right direction and try to make me better at something that was foreign to me.
So to that point, when the record comes out and you listen to it, did you think, like, what were your thoughts based on everything you just said?
I look back on that album now, and I still look back on that album then, and I feel like the songwriting for someone who wasn't a songwriter initially, was pretty good for a 20-year-old kid from Florida. The thing is like a lot of those records from that first half of the 90s, they all sound thin. You know, a lot of the, like when you were talking to Wendy about Ryan Green and like and Don L. Cameron, you know, and the West Beach, and like, because we went into West Beach, I think we just went and hung out and checked out West Beach as like a potential for where we could do the album, and we ended up doing it at I can't remember the guy's last name, Jim something Studios in Orange County. And they all have the same, you know, roughly the same consoles. It's either a Neve or an SSL or an AMAC or something. Eventually, it's about the vibe. You know, like Metallica, even there was no bass in Injustice, you know, and the trend at the time was the bass was very trebly, and so it didn't have the same girth that, you know, albums of today would have with that heavy low end and all that kind of stuff. It was just the times.
Like that blasting room kind of sound that's just like
yeah, with
just
Bill Stevenson.
yeah, like he figured out the fucking formula.
Yeah, like Rise Against or whatever.
Oh hell yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just like a weapon.
I mean, Joe Principe, dude, that guy's got a great bass sound. Like,
Oh
and
my
that
God.
was not translating back in the early 90s. You know, it was very thin. It was very a lot of 10K and a lot of 5K and anything or 500 megahertz, and anything after 200 megahertz was falling off. If you were at least getting the kick drum to kick through at you know 80 hertz, you were feeling lucky and heavy at that point.
I did feel like a lot of I think with the Fearless sounds, to me, that it did feel a lot of the albums, as much as I love them, like I'd have to really turn up the volume in my car to get some kind of like that surrounding presence of those records, because they were thin. Even like in Casino Out was the same way. It's like there is a thinness, you know.
Yeah, and man, don't get me started on that. The drive-in. We met those guys at Wild Hairs. Bob and I met Cedric at this place called Wild Hairs. We were playing a show in El Paso, Texas, and this was before At the Drive-In. And Cedric was in some kind of crazy hardcore band and a reggae band at the same time. Both his bands played that show with us. And I was like, oh, this guy Cedric's kind of crazy cool, you know? Like, he's kind of a different dude. But this was before At the Drive-In. At the Drive-In wasn't even a thing then. And I believe that was 94. I believe that was either on our way out or on our way back from meeting Bob Becker. Man, El Paso's a weird, weird town. It really is. Like, and I have friends from there still. Like, I used to live in Long Beach a few years ago, and my neighbor, who I stay with every time now that I go back, my buddy Mike, he's from El Paso, and like he and his brother and I would sit around their house, and we were like, "Fuck, dude, I met Cedric, you know, before At the Drive-In," and his brother's like, "Oh yeah, I remember that," you know, like it's crazy, like what a different time that was, you know, because everything was booked on book your fucking life, book your own fucking life, right? There was no internet, there was none of that. There's no cell phones, you know, it was all pay phones and book your own life, and you would look through that thing like it was the god of your universe, you know. That Flipside discontinued.
Was it them or Maximum Rock and Roll? Was it Maximum Rock and Roll?
Maybe it was MMR.
Yeah.
Maybe it was MMR. Maybe I got that wrong. I remember reading recently that they discontinued that a few years ago.
Oh, it was still around?
I don't know. Man, that was such a valuable tome to have in those days, though. You know, like that was like the Thomas Guide of the United States for punk rock shows. Like, do you know what a Thomas Guide is?
No.
A Thomas Guide was this like 1.5 inch thick bound 14 by, I don't know, 8 map of just Los Angeles, just the greater Los Angeles area. And that's how we used to get around before even Google Maps, you print out Google Maps.
Oh, yeah, yeah. We'd buy that shit at a gas station before we went on
Gas station.
tour, and then we would have the It would be like the most recent year of the U.S., and that's how we would figure out how to get to shows.
Exactly. And so you couple a Thomas guide with a book your own fucking life, and you could probably play for 2 weeks straight in LA if you played your cards right.
What were you guys like? I'm gonna start kind of moving this direction. You guys break it up, but like, what were you guys like as a band on the road, internally?
So there's a song by Riverboat Gamblers I think it's the song Victory Lap. And I swear to God, it nails just about every part of being in the van with the guys. It's like, what is that song you're playing? And it's like, oh, somebody farted in the back of the van and I can smell it up here now. And it's like, we got to stop here because I want to hit this fucking Stuckey's and get a pecan log. If we had no place to stay, we would go to a rest stop and sleep on the picnic benches. But most of the time, we were ever so lucky. And at the end of the show, we would say, hey, if you got a place you could put 5 of our stinky farts up, it would be greatly appreciated. And a lot of times people would oblige us and give us such a great bunch of just hospitality. And that's how you meet people. That's how you make people for the next time that you come around.
Were you guys like kind of, some bands are pranksters, some bands are pretty like I talked to Chris from Elliot, and they'd leave the show and just get on the road to get to the next one early because they want to be on time. Some people would like to stay around and party. Like, what was that environment like? Or yeah, what was that like for you guys?
We were definitely different than that, Chris. Yeah, I listened to that one and I was like, I understand that because there was a few times that we had to be that way due to time constraints, but most of the time it was like, no, we want to party with the locals, and then we'll get up and we'll shuffle out of town at like 10, 12 in the morning and make it to the next show. We tried to, as best we could, time it to where we only really had like 6-hour drives, maybe 8-hour drives tops, depending where we're going through and where our next destination was in the West. Everything's a greater amount of distance when you're going through the Western United States. The East Coast was always nice, It was like, oh, we only have 3 hours. Oh, we can fucking get blotto.
Partying with the people, the locals afterwards at someone's house, if it was like a nice house and not a shithole. Even the shitholes were kind of funny because of the story, but it was so much fucking fun.
Dude, we had so many different times of that. Like, we played a show in Little Rock, Arkansas, with these cats, and I'm forgetting their name right now, but they were just the most amazing band. And I was just like, how did this band come out of this place? But we went back with a guitar player to his house, and he put on like hours long of just G.G. Allen shitting himself and pissing himself on, on some floor in some crappy dive bar. We were just laughing about it and pissing about it, and then go out and shoot guns in the field or something. It's just like this. It's so surreal. Touring is like the most surreal thing because you get to live small sections of people's lives with them. And I think that's what really kind of endears you to each other. The next time you're coming through, it's like, oh, these guys are coming through. These guys are our kind of people. Like, we got to fucking hang out and make sure that everybody comes to the show. It's almost like better than sending out just expensive posters to put up later, because it's really about like the people just talking to each other and be like, yo, so-and-so's coming back in town. We got to do this again and make it epic.
Yeah, it's almost like too when you show up there, the locals or the kids of the show, they want you to have a good time. So it's almost like you show up bringing the music, whatever, and you bring the live show, and then afterwards you get to meet whoever, and they're like, hey, come hang out with us, and they're like, we want you to see all of this shit that you wouldn't see without us here, and you're like, okay. good or bad. Like, what's this going to be?
Precisely.
It's wow. That.
Yeah. It's a kind of a lowest common denominator kind of thing, but in a like the most awesome way where it's like I get to hang out with the the king rats of the town.
Yeah.
It's like like I think about when Bigwig came out and we met those guys, I was like, I remember, I know what your reference is to before even hearing the album, because I remember the movie Watership Down. That's who you get to hang out with. You get to hang out with the bigwig of town when you go into their town, and they want to know you. They want to know what you're all about, and they want to see if you're as cool as them, and if they're as cool as you in the same way. It's such a cool feeling, man. I've taken that because now I record sound for film and television, and I've worked on this show called Naked and Afraid
Oh,
for the
wow,
last
really?
decade. Yeah, I'm a sound mixer for the show Naked and Afraid for the last decade. And I've taken that same kind of spirit about being a guest in people's countries, and I go there, and when some of my crew start to act up, I'm like, hey, you got to cut that shit out. We're guessing these people's country. Like, let them do what they want. Let them do for us what they want, and what they don't want for us. Like, we're the guests. Like, act like a guest. And that's kind of what I've adopted in that way from touring. It's just like I'm a guest in your town. You get to be the host, and people love being a host. It makes them feel better about themselves, and don't ruin that for people.
Yeah, no, totally. So, like, you start off, we were talking earlier in the conversation, and you talk about the show with Offspring, and your first show singing is with Offspring and Rancid, and you're playing in front of
So
4,000
huge.
people, right? So
Oh
you
my
start off,
God.
that's your, people never even get to that point randomly, and you start your first show off, not first show, but your first show singing, and then there's a point where you leave the band. So here we are, where the record's out. You're done recording with Jim Cherry. You guys went on tour for 2 months with Strung Out. You did all that fucking show.
We went on, then we came back, and in '97 we went on tour with Glue Gun, which was Bob's other band that he was trying to promote. Even though they didn't really want to tour heavily, as Bob, the singer for that band, he had a good job and family and everything. Clint from Guttermouth was their bass player at that time. Jody was their drummer. I'm trying to remember who was playing guitar for them then. And so we did 2 weeks in Canada, and we were all over Eastern Canada. It was a United States tour. Okay, so let me take it back. So we're already living in California then. I moved my wife and my brand new daughter, my first daughter, Riley. Riley, I love you. Out to California. I've got an apartment in North Hollywood, just off of Oxnard and Whitsett or Van Nuys, one or the other. My then wife was out there for maybe 3 months. She's working at I don't know, some photo processing place. She decides that that's not really what she wants in life, and it's like January of '97, and I tell her, oh yeah, we're going to go on tour for 3 weeks. We're going to do the States and a couple weeks in Canada and come home. And before we even leave, she tells me, oh well, my dad's on his way out here to come get me and Riley. I'm like, whoa, okay. Like, we got a crappy little 1-bedroom apartment out here with you and me and our daughter, but like, that's not a deal breaker. And I mean, a lot of people live in smaller places than that. But so she decides that she wants to go back to Florida. I'm like, okay. Like, trying to keep on track with the band and trying to manage that and whatever that's turning out to be at that precise moment in time. So we go on tour with Glue Gun. We travel across the northern United States towards Canada. Get into Canada. We're there for a couple weeks. And I call home, check on her, make sure they made it there all good. And basically she tells me she wants a divorce. And so man, I'd already had a lot to drink that night in the bar where Nancy, who was also, she was a bartender, but she also booked our Canadian parts of our tour, and proceeded to beat up a payphone. my band has to like carry me out of the fucking bar, put me in the van, and we go back to where we're staying. I get on the phone with my mom. I'm like, hey, Mom, I need a plane ticket, like, in the next 6 hours back to Florida. And she's like, all right. And she books me a ticket. I steal the van. Chris, our tour manager, rest in peace. He's a fucking sweet man. Chris wakes up in the middle of me stealing the van. He's like, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm going to the airport. He's like, what are you going to the airport for? I'm like, I got to go home. He's like, what the fuck? I'm like, dude, this is what's going on. He's like, okay, I hear you. And so we go to the airport. I drove to the wrong fucking airport.
Oh, my God.
Missed my flight. Go to the next airport. Get on the flight. Go home. I'm there for 24 hours. Trying to see how I can figure it out with her. And she's like, no, there's no figuring out. We're done, this and that. I'm like, all right. Knowing that my band's pissed off at me because I just ditched them in Canada, of all places, which I would have never thought about doing. But, you know, alcohol, love, and stupidity will put a whole different thought process in your mind if you let it. I'm like, all right, well, you know, I flew to Florida. You're going to tell me that there's no way to fix this, save this, whatever. I'm like, all right, well, hey, Mom, can you fly me back to fucking New York?
Oh, my God.
Like, I'm going to go meet my band back in New York 24 hours later. So she's like, okay. And God bless my mom. She's a saint. I don't even know that I deserve my mother, but I'm thankful for her and I love her to death. So she flew me back to New York, and God dang, those lovely boys, lads, and bigwig picked me up at the airport in New York and took me to the next show where my three guys showed up, not knowing what the hell was going to happen. I mean, this was before cell phones, so I had no way of like contacting them, telling what's going on, you know. And old Tom and Josh and oh gosh, those guys, they picked me up and took me over to where the show was. Got out of the van and looked at my band, and they just kind of stared at me like I was just the biggest asshole ever. I'm like, yeah, I get it. I get it. I'm an asshole. Like, I don't, but what would you do in my shoes? I don't know. So we got up there and we played. We fucking kicked ass. Like, they didn't talk to me for like 2 days on the road. That was kind of a rough situation. Kind of weathered it for the moment. And we came back through Pensacola, my hometown, on the tour. Bob was like, don't fucking talk to her, blah, 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 this and that, you know. I'm like, I can't not talk to the mother of my child. She tried to get me to stay. I'm like, she's like, just stay, just stay. I'm like, I can't leave my band a second time on tour when they still have a week's worth of shows. I already ditched them. We didn't miss a show from Canada to New York. You know, they basically just came back over the border. We didn't miss a show. I just told my wife then, I was like, I can't leave them a second time. That's not fucking cool. And not only that, not just leave them for a show, but for the whole week's worth of left of shows that we have to book. I said, if you're serious that we'll figure it out, then we'll figure it out in a week. I guess that didn't set well with her. You know, trying to be responsible for more people than just me. So I toured back to California with the guys. On that tour, my buddy BJ, his band Lick 57s, joined up with us to tour back out to California. Lick 57s, in my mind, were fucking way more awesome band than us. They ended up, I think they ended up doing something with Lewis from Hopeless. A lot of emotions, a lot of trying to be responsible, trying to live your dreams. All those things at one time are not compatible all the time. But I jumped in because my band was still kind of mad at me. They weren't really talking to me a lot. So I jumped in with Lick 57s as we toured together back out to California. They were like, holy shit, why are you in our band? I'm like, because my band's not talking to me right now, and you guys love me, so I'm just going to be in your band. Hope you don't mind. So we toured back out to California, kind of settled things out there, and then I talked to the guys, like, I got to go figure out whatever this is, and I think it just kind of pissed them off to the point where they didn't even want to talk about it further after that. They just felt betrayed, and I don't blame them. I don't blame them. You know, Matt Cochran from Bronx, sings in the lightning strikes once, it does not strike twice, right? And so I don't know. Maybe they had just had it at that point, and they tried to carry on after I left in July of '97. I think they got some guy to play bass and some other guy to do vocals. I think they went and played one show at the Showcase out in Corona, California. It was pretty popular place, and I love playing there. I almost fought Nazis there so many times.
Oh, Jesus.
It was such a wild ride. It feels like it happened so fast too, between being made the singer for a band that I wasn't trying to be the singer for, and like the record, the tour, the other tour, and then like life falls apart and you're like trying to freaking hold it all together.
That's fucking crazy, man. I didn't realize that like usually stories are bands just kind of just
Fizzle out.
fizzle out. Yeah, but you didn't. It wasn't going in that direction. It was just one choice you made, and then you guys just couldn't get back on track after that.
Yeah, we tried to do kind of, I think it was 2005 or 6. We got back together, and I had already, after I moved back to Florida in '97, I started another band called Hindsight, interestingly enough. And we were pretty good, but I kind of eschewed like the whole super fast punk thing, and tried to slow it down a little bit, but still be, I mean, that punk DNA is always there. I did that for a couple of years and then kind of lost my bass player and drummer, and my brother was my second guitarist. We had some really, what I felt were even more mature songs at that point, as far as songwriting on my part. They were still that, that kind of punk, Bay Area punk kind of sound, more of Sam I Am Jawbreaker kind of thing. Because I was always drawn to that. Because the thing is, when I heard Blake Schwarzenbach sing the lyrics, you're not punk, and I'm telling everyone, save your breath, I never was one. It's like, I don't have to be punk. I don't have to claim punk. Like, it's an attitude. It's a way of life. It's this and that. And I didn't feel like I had to play a million miles an hour just to be punk. And so I tried to kind of graduate musically and lyrically. And, I started listening to shit like Roy Orbison and like On the Regular and Tom Petty and Radiohead and like all this stuff. Like, there's more to it than just being on Epitaph and Fat Records, because I still have a firm belief that Tom Petty was probably one of the coolest punks I could have ever wished I could have met. Man, it was a whirlwind of a band. It really was.
It sounds like did you ever from that point and then until present day, like kind of have just to sit down with yourself and be like, hey man, it fucking happened like that. No regrets, or does it still kind of like carry with you?
I think regrets are often misconstrued as like just a tangent in the timeline of multiple universes. In that, your regrets are, it could have gone this other way had you taken that choice. I grew up with, are you old enough to remember the Choose Your Own Adventure books?
Fuck yeah.
So that's kind of how I look at, the idea of regret and what you choose and what you don't choose, and the whole idea of this thing that, is largely driven by comics, of this multiverse thing, right? And physicists and everything. And that regret is nothing. Hey, this could have gone that direction had I chosen that, but I didn't. And this is the choose your own adventure direction that I went.
Well, let me ask you this. So, like, if you really follow, the one thing that I've learned from talking to a lot of bands for the last couple of years is even the ones that got further, let's say more albums than you guys did, right? They eventually, all of them, pretty much every single one of them, except maybe, I don't know, like one. Like, and I've talked to, you'll be, I think, interview 175, right? And they're not all bands, but a good amount of them are bands. And I think there's like maybe one person or maybe two in that. I have to really look through the catalog, but like a handful maybe that still can play shows, but not like full time. So eventually, out of all the bands that are back in the day, like the math was really there that it was going to end at some point.
Everything ends, though. Everything has a beginning and an end.
But from your perspective, from where you guys were as a band and like what kind of fire you thought you were like kind of like riding. So from that point on, if things didn't go the way that they did, how many more albums do you think you guys would have gotten out of yourselves?
Blount in its last inception, I would have felt like we would have gotten at least two more albums out of Blount, at least, because I had the best freaking pilot, co-pilot, whatever you want to call it. Call him Pensacola Bob. I still love the guy to this day. Randy, who ended up being our guitar player after Craig left. Craig left because he didn't want to load in gear anymore, like the rest of us. Like, we didn't have roadies. He was like, yeah, I don't want to, you guys can load in my shit. I'm like, we have our own shit to load in. Like, and so we ended up letting him go, and he immediately joined Jughead's Revenge. And he played with them for a little bit, and then he played with somebody else. I can't remember who it was. He's a super talented guy. Then he ultimately ended up playing with was Elijah Blue's band. What's that called?
I have no idea. Elijah Blue?
Yeah, Cher's kid.
Oh, yeah.
Deadsy. He ended up playing bass in Deadsy, and they do that whole spooky makeup thing or whatever. And he seems like he's had fun with that. Like, he ended up being a chef. The guy who dumpster dived at McDonald's after he got off work at McDonald's ended up being a chef and meeting like Anthony Bourdain. Like, the choose your own adventure life thing is like a real deal. Like, the world is open for you if you're open for it.
Yeah, man.
Like,
I dig it.
John Kuhn, our drummer, he's a registered nurse since before we met him, and he did a traveling nursing program, and now he's got a rad kind of chicken coop punk rock band out of California called Saugus, and they're great. The music is embedded within all of us. It's in our DNA, and it's not something that you can just shake off and walk away from. I know Bob is still probably sitting at his house playing his blue Les Paul, ripping RKL riffs and stuff. He's just that dude, He's always been that dude. He was in a band called Poor Kids on Glue back in the day when he was still in California. It was like the dime store Rich Kids on LSD, and like that's just who we are. The past lives thing is not really a past life. It's just like a chapter in the life. What are you doing? What are you doing, Mike? What have you done after Lane Meyer? Because that's a Better Off Dead reference. Lane Meyer, a man. Like,
Yeah, man, I mean, it was like the same thing. Like the band broke up, and I just found graphic design, and I've been working for myself for like over like almost 20 years.
that's great. But you guys had about a 7-year lifespan, right?
We were like maybe it was like 98 to 2001. We got into no, yeah, we got right into 2001 and we broke up soon after.
Okay, because I know I had heard your guys' name through like the bigwig guys, like the early bigwig guys, because I don't know what Tom was doing, but like he kicked all the guys out, Matt and Josh, and what was your other guitar player's name? What was it? What
John, Josh, so John played
John?
bass, Josh played guitar, and
No, Josh played bass. Josh from
no,
the Overdrives played bass.
no, Josh from the Overdrives played guitar.
Okay, then it was two Joshes.
Yeah, well, no, the first Josh, he played an upside down guitar, a ready guitar, but he played it lefty. Remember that?
I think that was before we met them, because PGA Josh was the bass player when I met them.
I thought he played guitar. Let me text him right now. That's how we met, right? Was it Josh?
Yeah, yeah, it was like so crazy because like so I was just in Montana filming a Naked and Afraid like 2 weeks ago before this all got set up, and some guy on Instagram messages me out of the blue with a picture of the Blount album artwork on the bottom of a skateboard, and I was like, "That's fucking rad!" Like I didn't even know this existed. Like, where did you get that from? And he's from Singapore, and he's like, I had this made. It cost me like $100 or something. I'm like, I want one of those to put in my recording studio. I've got like one skate deck, a Picture Books, this band Picture Books, great band from Germany. I was like, fuck, I want one of those just for my recording studio. And he's like, it probably costs like several $100s just to get it to you from this side of the world due to shipping and the printing and the one-off thing of it. And then I guess he had contacted Craig and Bob. And so they already knew about it, but they were like, I want one too. I want one too. I'm like, well, shit, how do we make this happen just to have it just for us anyway? The guy sent me another person who does that kind of thing. And it's like, oh, we only do, 100 or whatever. I'm like, I don't need 100 of them. Like, talking about a band that's like 28 years old that nobody remembers. And then I posted that like on a reels or a story or whatever. And Josh was like, oh yeah, I remember those guys, Wes was good, was awesome to hang out with. I'm like, that's me, dude. They're like, how do you not know that already? He's like, holy shit, that is you. I'm like, yeah. He's like, you got to do this thing with Mike Doyle. I'm like, okay, I don't, what is that? Okay, he's doing a podcast. Cool. Let's talk about it. I don't know. It was just like a weird resurgence thing.
Yeah, I mean, he hits me up all the time and he'll be like, "Hey, do you want to talk to this person, this person?" Sometimes I'm like, either I like don't know who they are or they've done podcasts and he's like, "Do you want to talk to Wes from Blunt?" I was like, "Yes." Because I
Well, it sounds like you guys started like right after when I left the band. It sounds like you started right after us.
well, what you
If
said
you guys popped off
97?
in,
You said
yeah,
97?
so
Yeah.
you guys started in '98.
Yeah, yeah. Well, we were in a different punk band before Lane Meyer, and then we turned into Lane Meyer. But yeah, like we were kind of transitioning into the scene as you were out of it. So like the life that you led was like a completely different viewpoint because we got to tour, but we did have like a cell phone or we did have email, so it was a little bit easier,
Hmm.
but not like today where I could just book the whole thing on my phone right here.
Right, exactly. It's so crazy how technology has made things so much easier for bands on the road.
Yeah, I would have a fuck it. I say it all the time. I would have a blast. I would know exactly what to do to market my band if I was touring right now. There's so many fun, awesome things you do just to put your like to have everyone see what's going on and like love your band.
So much easier things, so many more tools in the toolbox to make that a reality.
Oh,
I feel
totally.
like, Spotify and the fact that you can self-publish and self-record and all these things now have put everybody on an almost even playing field. Obviously not if you're up against the majors, but that doesn't even matter anymore.
Oh no.
At some point, it just made it more accessible to everyone. And the cool thing about music is, no matter how good or bad you are, and that's obviously a subjective thing, is that you'll find a niche. Somebody's gonna like you because they're just that wacky too. And that's the beautiful thing.
Well, that's the thing too. It's like you have to kind of have a rule for yourself of I'm gonna do this for me to start. So when I show up there, I'm either gonna play and who cares who watches me, or you're like, if a handful of people come at all times, then that's cool. Or you go, I want to fill this fucking room every time.
There were so many shows on tour that we played where we just played for the sound guy and the bartender.
So there's a photo. I'm gonna start. I have to wrap this up soon, but there's a photo on Discogs, and your first daughter's name's Riley. Is that the name?
Riley,
Right.
yes.
Is
Yeah.
there's a picture of you guys in the back of the van, and one of you, I think it's you, you're holding a little baby with a blunt patch across their onesie. Is that her?
That's my daughter. Yeah. She is about to be 27 in August.
That's great. Do you know what picture I'm talking about?
I do. I remember that day very, very well. My ex-wife actually took all those pictures on a film camera.
I don't know if you have it. I'm gonna message it to you in the chat just so
Yeah,
you have it.
sure.
Yeah, it's super cute.
Great picture. I think I actually have prints of that still somewhere here. I've got to get so much stuff like kind of organized from those days. Yeah. That's John on the left. That's Craig on my left of the picture, and Bob on the far right of the picture there. Man, we were so tenacious at that point. Like we knew we were putting in the work. We knew we were putting in the work. We knew we weren't half bad, and we knew that if we just kept it up, we had something. To anybody out there that's listening, if you put in the work, you have to believe in yourself. Even if you don't feel like you should, believe in yourself. Try not to start a family. That makes it harder. It makes it harder. If you want to have a family, that's fine. Please do so. But hear you me, that makes it exponentially harder to do what you need to do in that situation. I had no one telling me those things early on. I didn't even really think about it. Just love and youth put you in a different path that you don't necessarily think of all those things at the time. But if you believe in yourself, other people will believe in you at some point. Dreams are only dreams until you wake up and you just go at it and put in the work. That's really all there is to it.
Oh, totally.
Everybody's a critic. A lot of people don't make anything. A lot of people just want to have opinions. But the people that make it are the people that you should listen to most of the time. What kind of accolades did you guys end up with? You guys did an album or?
Yeah, we did a EP and then a full length, and then we were donezo. We also like the other singer, he quit, so I took over singing full time and really liked it. But we did our final tour was like almost 2 months, and it was way too much. And then we just burned out. And then Brian, who went on to do Gaslight Anthem, he quit the band, and I was just like, I'm not getting another fucking guitar player. So I was like, I'm out. I'm done.
Hold on, Brian Fallon was in your band?
Yeah, he was in. He did it. He did a fucking interview recently, and he was like, I don't know, I was in the band for like 3 months or something. He was in the band for almost a fucking year. I just want to put it on record since people are gonna hear this.
Holy shit, dude! That guy is like the crooner, the modern crooner right now. He's like the Bruce Springsteen of fucking New Jersey for the whole world right now. Like,
yeah, he went off and did. I mean, it's awesome to see what he did. Like when he quit the band, I was really pissed at him because the band broke up, and like I mean that was my choice to not do it. If he just chose to leave, and I was like, that's my reasoning. Where at the end of the day, it was my choice to just not want to go afterwards. But he ended up, yeah, he was he was constantly journaling in the van and really to himself. And then a couple years later, they're like, "Oh, Brian's in this band, this charming man," and then it turns into Gaslight Anthem. And all of a sudden, every time I'd ask for new music, people would just send me this band. I was like, "This sounds like Fallon," and then lo and behold, so it was. I was like, "Damn, dude, it's crazy."
See, but think about that for a second, right? So was that his first foray into music was with you guys?
No, he was in a bunch of bands before us. It was like Surrogate McKenzie, and then us, and then he played guitar in this band called.
But think about this. Think about this. Like that Sink or Swim album, right?
Yeah.
There's some good songwriting on there. He didn't quite pull it all off because they rushed that album. Let's be honest. Like, I love Brian Fallon. I think that guy is a brilliant songwriter. I think he's become such a great singer now. That Sink or Swim album, though,
It's raw.
that's what that felt like to me, putting out that first Blount album. In that, like, he fell into that after a series of Choose Your Own Adventure. And the Sink or Swim album was good songwriting there. The execution was a little rough, you know. And then they went on what was the next Gaslight anthem?
59 Sound.
45, or was it
59 Sound?
59 Sound? Those albums are flipping amazing. I still listen to these this day. And like, what's the other one that starts off? American Slang. Oh my God. Me and my current drummer still just swoon over American Slang. Like, yeah, dude, that's where you get to after you've cut your teeth so many times, and all of a sudden you're the shizzle.
Yeah.
You know, that's where you get to.
But the thing is, you have people that, like you said, if you really want to do it, just keep doing it. There was never stopping that dude, and he also developed because his first songs were like and we actually have a song with him called Alarm that he recorded with us, and it's pretty good. Like, he also said in an interview, he's like, we hated the song, like we didn't hate the song. And it was like, but it was so different from our sound. We were more poppy. He had this rougher sound, this like hot water music-ish kind of voice when he was doing that. But then he just once he locked in, he figured it out. I mean, it was just went gangbusters. And the guy lives to write music, so that's just a world that he goes. I think you just have to decide for yourself where you're going to be, and he's just decided, like, I'm just going to write music. That's all I know, and that's all I want to do, and he's stuck with it.
Well, the biggest part of it is finding your voice, and I don't know that I ever entirely found my voice while I was with Blount.
Well, that's the thing, man. Like, you didn't have. That's why right at the end, you guys were going in this direction, and a lot of things are happening around you. That's why it's got to be a bummer when it stops, because you hadn't got with those guys, because you can go off and find your voice.
Hadn't made that stride yet. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, I hadn't made that stride yet, where it's like you get the sophomore album, you know?
Yes, and then then it could work either way, though. It could be really good, or it could be not. You know, you never know.
Well, that was that tumultuous time, you know, that Dan Ozzie was basically writing about in the book Sellout. You know, like, we could have done that first album on Fearless, and then next thing you know, had we had a little more longevity, we could have recorded by Island Depth Down, all these different, the Thrice, the days of, you know, the Haunts or whatever, any of those labels or whatever, and then yeah, sure, people run screaming, sell out, this and that, but I don't feel like we ever had that potential in our town for people to want to call us sellouts, because everybody just always backed us because they just wanted to have a win for the town. You know, they just wanted to have somebody to go, yeah, those are our guys. It just always kind of irked me that, you know, with Jawbreaker, the whole idea of Jawbreaker, where everybody paid to get into the show, and then they all turned their back on them while they played. It was like, those are your dudes, and like, the potential for them to be able to make money to keep doing this for you instead of having to work some lousy job, come back off tour with no money, just baffled me. It baffled me. Why wouldn't you want these people to be able to continue to do this without having to do some garbage job? It's just beyond me.
Well, the morons who did that didn't play in a band. And if they did play in a band, they were too stubborn in their views, but majority of people were fans who bought into some sellout bullshit that was fed to them. And they're like, well, you have a job and you're making money to buy that ticket to come here and turn your back to me. It's hilarious. But then those decisions made a band go, fuck this. But then they come back now and they can bank it. So like maybe that wouldn't have happened for them if they stayed with it, during Dear You. Like maybe it wouldn't have gone really big and like they wouldn't have been making the money that they're making now for doing these fucking reunion shows.
I don't know. To be honest with you, like I've listened to everything that Blake has done.
I do love Jess Brazil. I think I like Jess Brazil more.
Oh my, I love Jets to Brazil. So when the Dear You album came out, I was like, man, this is just the best thing since Wonder Bread. And I didn't have that same reaction that maybe those Bay Area people had. My buddy Jim Perlman, Jimmy P, he's trying to stay off the radar, so I won't blast him right now. But he's like, and Jets to Brazil came out and they came through Pensacola and they played at Sluggos before the fire, and I saw them in that little venue and on that Orange Rhyming Dictionary tour, and I was like, this is so good. And I see the carryover from that Dear You album to that Orange Rhyming album, and it was like, yeah, you don't have the same guys backing you, but I still see the same level of songwriting that has transcended even more so into that next album. Man, there were so many like Jawbreaker fans that were just like, not about Jets to Brazil. And I was like, why? Like, it's the same guy still pouring his poor heart out. That guy could turn a line into something that you could take out of context and it's still like its own poetry in that one line. And I was like, that's what I always wish I could be.
I mean, it's rare too for you to be a lead singer of a band and then to do your second band and have it be popular, even though there was some people giving it shit. But Jess was pretty big.
Jess was big. And then I also saw Thorns of Life in Orlando at the Social, and that's a really wide club and shallow club, so there's not like a bad spot to be in there. And I was like, this is so good, even though I didn't even know the Thorns of Life songs because those were so short-lived. I think it was 2016 when Jawbreaker finally came back and started doing shows. And I was like, finally, because those songs are still timeless. They're still timeless. And I feel like as a songwriter, that's where I would like to be, is to be a person who could write something that's timeless, that still applies to everything that is going on in the here and now, regardless of the world climate, because that just relates everything to everyone.
Well, cool though. So I'm going to wrap this up with two questions.
All right, go ahead.
Well, the first one is just pretty generic. Like, what do you want to plug? It could be about you, it could be about a friend, it could be about both.
Well, so I had that band Hindsight in like the end of the 90s for a couple years, but right now, for anybody that knows me and is curious about what's going on with me, I have a beautiful family with two younger children, a wife I probably don't deserve and totally appreciate and respect. I've got a new band with the original drummer from Blount, Keith Hall himself, and my little brother, Jeremy Sparks, who is probably one of the people I respect and love most in this world. And so we got a new project that we're embarking upon and we're working on in the studio right now, in my recording studio called The Glorious Flaws. We don't take ourselves too seriously, even though it's not a reason to be lazy on producing, good music that hopefully people will enjoy. And keep listening to music. It's the only thing that's going to save our souls, I feel like, right now.
Okay. And last question, what scene ethics do you hold on to this day?
The scene ethics that I still hold on to this day are the same thing that Rancid preached, back in the late 90s is, if you fall back down, I'm going to pick you back up again. Pick people up, lift people up. It's so easy to put people down and push people under your thumb. That it's not creative, that it's not positive. And if you're doing that, that's on you. And there's something wrong with you.